Hello everyone, this is Shatrupa and today I'm going to do this video on interview session overview. So I'm going to tell you basically how an interview session looks like and how can you make it self-driven. Okay, it should not depend upon the panelist but rather on you, how you drive your interview session and get selected. So let's look for some tips. These are the pre-interview preparation tips. What you should do before the interview. First point is make sure you prepare a very healthy resume. Your resume should be such that there is no fault in it. It should be a healthy one. It should look very neat and clean. It should have all the details that you want the panelists to know about your educational career. Second is have technical skills that you are thorough with. Never write anything that you don't know. Never say that you know, suppose you don't know Python, you just know 10% of the Python. So don't go and write down in a resume because that doesn't looks good at all. Okay, so if you know any technical skills, you're sure about any language at least 50% or more, then only write that technical skill down, else don't. Else, if suppose you don't know Python and you have written Python and the person is one who is experienced in Python, he's surely going to screw you up with all the questions, and that time you cannot answer them and you will be bound to say that no, I don't know. So that wouldn't look good. Okay, so make sure you write down only those technical skills that you're thorough with. If you're thorough with C, write down C. If you're thorough with OS, write down OS. Have a mixture of at least 3 to 4 technical skills. Okay, next one is prepare for certain ice breaking questions beforehand. There can be questions like what are your weaknesses, right? This is a most common question that we often face. So never go and say that I don't have any weakness. Okay? So say rather have an answer like something like this, that I treat every opportunity as a chance to get to know something. If I fail, it's okay. I still got to know a new thing, and if I succeed, then that's better than everything. So have something prepared beforehand. Just don't go and sit down and think that time and say something stupid like I don't have any weakness. It can't be, right? You are bound to have certain weaknesses because you're not a very perfect person. Next point is make sure all the technical skills are not just programming language, have some theoretical technical skills as well. Now don't write down C, C++, Java, Python, R, embedded C, everything that you can. Okay, PLSQL, no, don't do this. Okay, have some theoretical aspect involved like DBMS, OS, data structure, OOPS concepts. Write down some or the other soft technical skills, okay, that are theoretical in nature. So the interviewer will get an overview that okay, this child knows here also, and here also. That is great. Okay, so he can frame questions from every part and you can drive him to your favorite topic. You might say that, sir, I have just mastered in one, but yes, I have some ideas about these other subjects as well. So that would look kind and well mannered. Next is know your resume very well. It often happens that we don't read our resume. Once written and done, we just keep uploading it. So don't do that. Make sure you read your resume very well. Okay, because I remember one child had written in his resume that I am very good at creative things. Now the interviewer asked him, what creative things have you done? And he was blank. He didn't know anything. Like, that is your resume and you don't know. That looks very absurd, okay, and out of the world, completely out of the world. So don't do that. Read your resume properly. Be very thorough with every point that you have written. Make sure that any question asked from your resume, you should be able to answer. It shouldn't look like you have copied someone else's resume. Okay. The next one is make sure you write down the final year project in the resume. This is very important. Why you need a final year project? Because in 4 years we do nothing other than final year project and internships. Okay. So make sure you write down the final year project. So at least when he asks you about your final year project, you can invest 5 to 7 minutes over there in just explaining the project. Okay, and he cannot question much in that because he wasn't there while you were doing the final year project, and he's not so knowledgeable in your project as much as you are. So be very thorough with your final year projects and keep every little detail of your final year project ready with you before the interview. And never forget to mention this final year project in your resume. It's very important. Next one is write some of your skills which are non technical, not related to your studies. You can write that you have a leadership quality, okay? You can write down that you have an habit of writing stories, poem, anything that is not your own. Anything that is not technical, sorry, okay? So you can write that down, okay? Like leadership qualities means you can write down that you can work with team, you can manage to do work even under stress. Okay, there can be many things. Okay, so make sure you have some skills like that, so they'll for sure question you that how can you work under stress. So give an illustration that I was there in one of those college projects. It was not a final year project, but before that, so at that time what happened, it was a sudden, it was said the dates have been changed and we have our vacations during that time during December, and the dates were changed, and so I was alone, and all other people had gone back to their hometown or anything. You can cook your own story, but make sure whatever you do it up to the point. You can tell them that other students had gone home and I was alone in the hostel, and I had to do everything from writing the SRS till completing the project and coding it. I had to do everything on my own even till the submission. So you have to say that, okay? So make sure and tell them that even our in January we had our semester exam, and however I had to cope up with both. So I managed doing it. That is how I work under stress. Okay, and not only that, you can add that we got an A plus in the project. Okay, he's really not going to check your mark sheets. So make sure you cook a very good story and keep these stories ready beforehand. Okay, it should not be in the interview. Okay, it should be before that. Lastly, it is your resume should look like a neat and clean description about you and your skills. This is utmost necessary, okay? Like what you are, what you want to show, everything should be there in that resume. Don't write anything extra and unnecessarily that things that will put you in trouble. Don't do that. Make sure every word that you put in a resume, it should be very clear to you as well as to the interviewer. Next one is the last thing. Prepare for certain puzzle like questions which are often asked. There are many puzzle like questions I'll be putting up in later videos, so you can see them. Okay, it's often asked in certain interviews, though not by the mass recruiting companies, but some companies, if you apply which are non-mass recruiters, they often ask these puzzles. Okay, to a fresher, most importantly, they do ask. Now this one is tips during the interview. In an interview, what you should do, okay? See, an interview has a maximum time span of 15 to 20 minutes, or if the interviewer is very keen about you, then it might get extended to 30 minutes at max, okay? So this is the time limit for a non-mass recruiting company as well as a mass recruiting company. But if you go for a high-end companies like Oracle, Microsoft and all, so I'm not talking about those companies. They take a little longer interview which lasts about 1 hour, 1.5 hours. So it's a little longer one. But major companies have their interviews for 20 minutes to 30 minutes. Okay, it's done between that. So what you need to do, try to look confident and always smiling. Maybe you don't know the answer, okay? But don't create that frown like face exclaiming yourself that you really don't know it. Don't do that. That looks really weird. Okay, the interviewer says that okay, now I caught you. Okay, now if I don't feel like taking you, I will not take you, by making sure that you don't know the answers. Okay, so never get that frown like face. So always keep smiling. Second one is try to answer the questions correctly and never say a no. It's okay that you don't know an answer, okay? It's nothing something weird or something like that. It is okay, absolutely fine if you don't know. But don't say a no. You can say, sir, I'm not sure. I may give it a try. This will look much better, okay? So you'll think, okay, fine. So if this comes into an organization, then if he is facing a problem, then he'll give it a try. Even if he doesn't know, he will simply not surrender to the team saying that, okay, I don't know this, give it to someone else. So never say a no, okay? And try to answer the questions correctly. If not, just say, I'll give it a try. I'm not very sure of it. Okay, your answer shouldn't have any terminologies that could lead to another question. This is the most important part of an interview. Remember, if suppose he's framing a question like one child was asked, what is a process control block? Okay, he started his answers correctly. He said that a process control block is used by the operating system to store the information about a particular process. And then he included something wrong in the answer and he started saying that it also has the details about multi-threading and about the kernels. Okay, a PCB, a process control block, doesn't have any detail about the kernels or about the multi-threadings. Okay, so what happened, the interview cross questioned him that what is a multi-threading and what are kernels. Now he didn't know that. So what happened? He ultimately got very disheartened, disappointed that he couldn't answer that, and he started giving all the questions that came after that as wrong. Okay, so ultimately he could hardly answer one or two questions correctly. So don't do that. Okay, so don't frame your answers in such a way that it has terminologies whose meaning you don't know. Never do that. Okay, if he has asked you what is a process control block, be keep it simple. It is a feature that is a data structure or a feature that is used by operating system or OS to store the information about a particular process. Ended there. You need not share your extra knowledge with the interviewer. Okay, he doesn't need it. So don't add any terminologies. Okay, that could lead to another question. This is very important. Be thorough with your final year project because you can really consume time in explaining your final year project, because he wasn't there when you were doing your final year project. So you can even say that I have done the entire project alone. You can claim it, doesn't matter, okay, because he wasn't there. So be very thorough. If you're using, suppose you're using a real time system and you have been working with Arduino Uno, never let him cross question on how many pins does a Arduino Uno have. Be thorough with it. Be thorough with even the equipment that you have used. If it is an Arduino Uno that you are using as an equipment, tell him, sir, while describing the project itself, tell him that Arduino Unos are of two types. 16 pins and 32 pins, but I've been using 16 pins. I don't know about the 32 pins. So if you have any question, you can ask me on the 16 pins. Never leave any statement incomplete. That will give rise to another question. Never do that. Okay, and always answer to the point. I just gave you an example in the fourth one that if asked what is a process control block, simply say it stores information about the process. You need not explain him the entire history of PCB. It's not needed. So always answer to the point. Next one is very important. Do not lose patience. Okay, so no matter if you have answered already 2 or 3 wrong answers, it's okay. Don't be frustrated, don't be irritated, don't give up. Okay, still keep smiling, be confident. Okay, never lose patience. If you lose patience, he is going to get to know, and then he's going to frame such questions for sure whose answer you won't be knowing. So never ever do this. Next one is also important. Always try to divert your answers to the point where you know all the answers, okay? Always try to bring him back to the topic that is your favorite. Like suppose operating system is my favorite. So if he asks one question related to say DBMS, that what is normalization, and I don't know what is normalization. So what am I going to do? Am I just going to let him go along with whatever question he has in stock? No, I'll tell him that, sir, this is normalization is a process which we use in database to reduce inconsistency and redundancy, but uh, it has different forms. I'm not very sure of it. If you really want to test my knowledge, you can ask questions from the part of OS or Java where I am very sure I can give any answers that you ask. Okay, so That is how you really present yourself. Always try to drag him down to the answers that you want to give. Never let him drive your interview. Next one, if you know the answer to a question, then consume time in answering it. It's another important point. You can consume your time in finally a project, and next you can consume time in answering a question whose answer you know very thoroughly. Like suppose one child was asked what are the concept of oops. That child literally explained the entire textbook. Okay, like from he started with inheritance, he gave the definition, he wrote a code, he explained the with example, real time example. Then he went to polymorphism, he did the same, he explained polymorphism, two types of polymorphism, he gave example. Then he explained encapsulation, and he did the same, and again gave an example, and again he explained abstraction, and again he did the same, giving an example. So he almost consumed 10 to 11 minutes doing this question. And lastly, the interviewer was left with hardly 7 to 8 minutes to wind it up. So he ended asking very simple question, and that person was selected. Okay, so always try to do things that you are very sure of. If you know a particular answer, just keep explaining him. But make sure whatever answers you know, you're fully prepared with a real time example, a coding example, and a definition. Okay. Last one is never mix a sure shot answer with not so sure statement. I just gave you an example over here. Shouldn't use terminologies. So what was that child's mistake? He explained process control block properly, but then he added two statement. One was multi-threading, other was kernel, that he wasn't sure of, and then he couldn't answer the remaining questions. So he was sure of a PCB, he wasn't sure of multi-threading and kernel, yet he added it, and he landed into trouble. So don't do that. If you are sure till the information stored in the operating system regarding a process, the PCB, stop your answers there. Okay, that's better and safe. Okay, so that is all for the tips for interview. Now let's look at the type of question that are asked in an interview. First, they'll start very simple with the ice breaking question like, tell me something about yourself, your hobbies, what are your future plans and goals. So, I think all of you should have at least a little stretch of answer prepared for these kind of questions. Okay, so they come really handy. So, when someone starts asking you what are your hobbies, you can easily say. If someone starts asking something about yourself, come on, don't say that I've completed my graduation from this college this year, this was my CGPA. That is already there in your resume. Tell him something that they don't know. Tell them like, I like to do ice skating. If given a chance, I would surely try something different, something that is not there in your resume. That should be eye catching. Okay, tell them that I always wanted to like anything that is different, that is unique just for you. Make sure you just spur them, that's all. Okay, and have these answers handy so you don't have to sit there and think. Okay, next is resume based question. Like they can ask you questions on your internship, your projects that you have done. Okay, so they might ask you what you did in your internship, what was the topic in your internship. So you need to explain what you have done in your internship. Then most importantly, they ask question on project, like equipments, the tools that you used, the language that you used, was it a real time or was it just a just a software or something like that. Okay, so keep them handy, keep your answers prepared for that. Then they ask questions technical based, that is always your skills mentioned in the resume. Okay, then is some managerial questions like puzzles. So these puzzles I'll be putting up videos soon. Okay, next is HR based question, like this becomes very easy one. You can say anything once you reach here, like it's, you just say anything, your expectation, you can tell them even 10 LPA, doesn't matter. They are going to pay you as much they want to pay you. So these questions don't have any value, it is just a way of interacting. So you can answer anything. What is important is still this managerial based question, that is puzzles. Okay, so the fifth point comes very handy. Okay, so you can answer anything that you want. and make sure that these managerial skills like puzzle, you take your time and solve them. Don't be in hurry, okay? And else the first 3 point, you for the first point you should have your answers prepared, okay? Even for the second point you should know your project and internship thing very thoroughly, and the technical skills will be only upon the topics that you have written on your resume. So choose very wisely, okay? Don't write anything that you don't know. Now moving on to the certain technical questions that are asked in an interview, okay? So if you look at the first one says Bellidy's anomaly. Now what is Bellady? Bellady is one of the scientists who had found this anomaly. Anomaly means a problem, a loophole in the process or something like that. He found a loophole in page replacement. Where is page replacement? Page replacement is in operating system, okay? So what he found, that with the increase in number of frames, the page fault increases. What should happen with increase in frame? The page fault should decrease. This should be the normal case or scenario, right? But what he observed, that in certain case with the increase in the frame the page fault also increases, okay? And since he had given this anomaly, he has described this anomaly, the anomaly was named after him as Bellidy's anomaly, okay? So anomaly is nothing but a loophole. So in page replacement this is there as a loophole, okay, that with increase in the number of frame the page fault increases. That is Bellidy's anomaly, okay? So next is, what is a process? So this is simple. What is a process? Process is nothing but a particular task that the operating system is assigned to do. So what happens is operating system makes sure that CPU completes the task and informs it back to the operating system and marks the process as complete. Okay, so what is a process? Process is a task that is to be performed by the CPU and has been assigned by the operating system. Clear? Okay. Moving on to the next question, it says, why do we write public static void main in Java? So I suppose I have explained this in the last video. Why we write, yes, I have explained this in the last video, why we write public static void main, why PSVM is written. That is because JVM has to access the main function, because JVM cannot create object, and thereby if it can't create object it has to access the main function. So how will it access the main function? With the class name. Okay, so since it has to access with the class name, thereby the main function is made static. Okay, public, so JVM is outside the class, so thereby everyone should be able to access it. Thereby JVM needs to access the main and thereby it is made public. Clear? Next is void. Void because if a main function returns something to JVM, what will JVM do with it? Nothing. Okay, so thereby the return type of main function is void. Clear? So that is why it's written as public static void main, okay, because JVM needs to access main, and if JVM is not and if main is not static, then JVM can't access it by the class name, because JVM can't create object, okay, thereby it is static. Public because JVM is outside the class, so to access the main has to be public. Void because if anything is returned by the main to JVM has absolutely nothing to do with the return value, so it becomes worthless returning something to JVM. Thereby we make the return type of main as void. Okay, that is why it is public static void main in Java. Next, what is the way to use multiple inheritance in Java? Okay, keep the answer over here simple. Say interface is the method or is the way to access multiple inheritance in Java. Okay, now don't explain on your own what is interface. Let the interviewer question you what is interface, then go ahead and explain. Else don't do it on your own. Okay, make sure that the interview answers are just to the point. He has asked you what is the way, so just answer him the way is interface. Okay, that is how we can access it. And if next he questions you, can you explain interface, then go ahead and give the definition, give an example, put the criteria, everything that you want to do you can do. After that, again, if you know interface very thoroughly, make sure this is time consuming. Okay. Okay, so moving on to the next question, it says what is normalization? So normalization is in DBMS, right? Normalization is in DBMS, and why is it is used? It is used to reduce redundancy and inconsistency of data. Okay, just answer this much if asked about normalization. If he asks you, do you know there are multiple types of normalization? Then only say yes, and then only go for 1NF, 2NF, 3NF, BCNF and all. Okay, else unnecessarily don't answer this. Just say this and leave it. Clear? Next is what is a constraint? Okay, so constraint is nothing but, yeah, sorry. Okay, constraint is nothing but a parameter upon which, it's a parameter or condition upon which data's entered in a database are mapped. Okay, this is the answer. Constraints are nothing but parameters or conditions upon which the data is entered in a database are mapped. So what are the example? Like a primary key, a foreign key, then you have super keys, you have composite keys, composite, then you have different attributes are there. Okay, so that's what makes up a constraint. But when you're asked what is a constraint, just answer this much. Make sure whenever you're in an interview, just try to answer to the point. Don't add anything extra. If you start saying primary key, super key, composite key, foreign key, he'll ask you, can you explain them with an example? Now, if you fail explaining an example, that will create a wrong impression. So, never take a risk until you're sure. Okay, so right, always say that parameters or conditions upon which data is entered in the database are mapped. That is what a constraint is. Okay, now this is a very common question. Okay, like all these three keywords are there in Java. Okay, one is final, finally, and finalize. Now final, it is a keyword which when used before a variable, make sure that value can't be changed throughout the code. Okay, what is finally? Finally is a block, okay, which is used in exceptions, exception class. So after every try and catch, if not a single try and catch is executed, doesn't matter if you have a finally block after a try and catch, then this finally will be for sure executed. Okay, so it is a block, this is a keyword, this is used before a variable, this is used before an exception class, it's used in an exception class where try and catch are there. Okay, and lastly finalize. What is a finalize? It is a procedure, okay, which helps you clean up. It's used to clean up the data. Okay, so if suppose there is a variable and that data is no longer used, if you write down finalize, it will simply do the cleanup. It will clean up that variable, that memory space will be emptied. Okay, so this is the difference between final, finally and finalize. Okay, Next is thrashing. Now where is thrashing? Thrashing comes in the concept of operating system. So what is thrashing? It's a very generalized term. Thrashing means when the CPU becomes so busy in just doing page replacement and doesn't do any other task, doesn't work on any other task. That's when the CPU output becomes 0. Okay, why? Because CPU output is considered to be high only when it finishes one task and takes other task. But what is happening? Page replacement is happening inside only one task, and he's continuously doing page replacement, going on, doing and on and on and on. So at one point of time, what will happen? The CPU output will become 0. Like this, the graph will be like this. It will increase and it will become flat like this. So this point will be known as thrashing. Okay, the process where the CPU only performs the page replacement and doesn't work on any other task. At that point of time, the system or the CPU is said to be thrashing. Clear? Okay. So moving on to the next, what is an abstract class? Now, abstract class is any class which has certain criterias. Okay. So what is an abstract class? Abstract class is nothing but as normal class only. It's a normal class, but it has certain criterias. What? It only has method declaration. Okay. Method definition is in the child class. Okay, the base class never has the method definition. It only has the method declaration, while the child class will have the method definition. So make sure that whenever you are writing a class as abstract, you have to write down a child class for the parent class who will have the definition of the method. If you don't write down the definition of the method in some or the other child class, then the program will give you a compile time error. Okay. So abstract class is a normal class. It only has certain criterias that it has only method declaration and no method definition. The method definition is done in the child class. Okay. And what is why do we make a class as abstract? Because in abstract class, what is the function of abstraction in OOPS? That we only show the necessary details, right? Show the necessary details and hide all the unnecessary details. Okay, so that is what we are doing. We are just saying that okay, this method is there in this function, but the definition is somewhere else. Okay, so that is how it is working. So that is what abstraction does, and that is what we are doing. So what is the criteria? That only has method declaration and no method definition. Okay, so moving on to the 10th question. Why do you think a programmer will make a method or function static? Okay, so always remember, if a method is static, this means that this method is loaded at the time of class loader. Okay, at the time of class loader, this static method will be loaded. So what happens when you play any Android games or any games on mobile? You might have seen, mobile or desktop, doesn't matter, you might have seen it shows you welcome and it writes the game's name. Okay, the name of the game is there, and then down below it says loading, right? So what is happening? It is in writing this welcome. How is this writing the welcome when the game is loading? That is because the method which has to print welcome is a static method. Always remember the static method gets loaded before the main function. Loaded before the main function. Thereby, the main function is loaded here. Thereby, the static function which says welcome is printed first. It shows you welcome and the game name, and now the game is loading. And when does the static method get loaded? At the time of class loaded, and it is loaded only once. Thereby, once the game is loaded, you no longer see this welcome written. Okay. So why will the programmer make a method or function static? If he wants to get it printed before the main method is executed, he'll make that method static. Okay, because static method gets loaded at the time of the class loader and it only is executed once, that is before the execution of the main method. Clear? Okay. Moving on to the 11th question, what is the main task of an operating system? The main task of operating system is nothing but to perform the tasks that are running in the backend, to manage them, basically to manage the tasks that are running in the backend. Now suppose, what are the tasks? See, first is it boots up the system. Second, if you are using Word, at the same time you can use Chrome. At the same time you can hear music. So these are three different work, but the OS is managing it and all of them are running smoothly. Okay? If they don't run smoothly, that's when your system starts hanging. That is because the OS isn't functioning. Okay. So it basically, what is the main task of operating system? To manage the tasks that are running in the backend. That is the main task of the operating system. Okay, and one of the important work that the operating system does is to boot up the system. Boots the system. Okay. Alright, now moving to the last question of the day. How can you give access to different people at different levels of database? Okay, so this is based on DBMS. It's already saying database. So in DBMS it is saying that in a particular database, how can you give different people different level of access? Means, suppose this is a student portal. Suppose this is a student portal of certain university, then the student can edit his or her info, apply for leave, and view mark. Okay, if it comes to a teacher accessing the student portal, then teacher can view the leave application and the teacher can update mark. So both of them are doing different things. See, here he can apply leave, while here the teacher can only view the leave. So how will you do that? In database there is a function known as view. We use view to give view or access to different people at different level. Okay, this view acts as the authentication of every person. Okay, so teacher cannot change your leave application and student cannot change the mark. Okay, so that is the authentication or the level, okay, or the authority that is given to a particular person in a database up to which he can access. So that is done by view. So how can you give access? You can use the command view to give access to different people at different level. Okay, so that is all from my end as of today, and this was a overview on the interview session. So please remember all the tips that I gave you for pre-interview and tips for at the time of interview, and these were the certain technical questions that I was asked during my interviews. So always remember that you always frame your answer very aptly, properly, and don't worry, we are having much more and many more technical sessions on interview coming up. So I'll make a detailed course structure on the interview question that can be asked, and as well as the questions on the online tests. Okay, so hope this session was helpful for you. See you in the next video. Thank you.